Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be talking about fractions and ratios written as percent. Please make sure you are taking notes in your math notebook and that you write this title on your paper. Look, I found a use for my Holt textbooks that are in my classroom. So the question here says, find the percent of textbooks that are green. If we look at our textbooks, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green textbooks and 1, 2, 3 blue textbooks. So we could write the ratio for green textbooks in a few different ways. We could say that the ratio of green textbooks to blue textbooks is 7:3. But in this case, we are asked to find the percent. And when you are finding a percent, you need your ratio to be part to whole. And in this case, we have a ratio that is already written as part to part. The part of the textbooks that are green and the part of the textbooks that are blue. If we want to make this ratio a percent, we need to make sure we are starting with a ratio that is the part of the textbooks that are green to the total number of textbooks that we have. So that ratio is going to be 7 green textbooks out of the total 10 textbooks that we have. This is the ratio we're going to use in order to create percents. Now we can do this a few ways. We can start by writing our ratio as a fraction, or we can make a ratio table. I'm going to show you both possibilities. Truthfully, I really like the tables in order to create percents because it allows us to see a little bit more information. Regardless, remember percent means per 100. So either way, we're looking for what our equivalent ratio would be if instead of 10 total books, we had 100 total books for our per 100. Now, this ratio that I have, the 7 green to 10 total, is fairly easy to get into 100 total possible. Because to get from one step to the next step, you just need to multiply by 10, right? 10 times 10 gets me to my 100 total. I know if I'm multiplying one number in my ratio by 10, I also need to be multiplying the other number in my ratio by 10 also. So that would be 70 green for 100 total books. Now, I like the ratio table because that also allows me to see that I would need 30 blue books for my total of 100. Now remember, percent means out of 100. So if I would have 70 green for a total of 100, that means my green books represent 70% of my total books. Looking at the ratio table, I see the same information. My ratio table actually shows me that my green books represent 70%, my blue books represent 30% for my total of 100%. Remember, percent is always out of a total of 100. So we know we're piloting this year, and I just noticed that on my desk yesterday, I was left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red books and 1, 2, 3 blue books. So I want to find the percentage of books that were red that were left on the desks. Now this one's going to be a little bit trickier. Again, I need to make sure that my ratio is written red to total books and not red to blue books. Now for this problem, I'm only going to use the ratio table, but you are more than welcome, if you're more comfortable, to just use the fractional value. Now, I've set up my ratio table for my ratio of 5 red books to 8 total books, and I know I need to get my total to be 100 because 100 is our percent is always going to be a ratio out of a total of 100 because that's what it means, per 100. Now, in this case, I left a few spaces because 100 is not a whole number factor of 8. So I want to see maybe some other ways that I might be able to get to 100. So I'm leaving myself a little space. So I know I can't get 8 to be 100, but I can get 8 to be 200 with a whole number multiple. Sorry about that. So in order to get to be 8 to 200, I'm multiplying by 25. And I would then have to multiply this side by 25 also. So what I get is that 5 to 8 is equivalent to 125 to 200. Now I know I need to get from 200 to 100. To do that, I would be dividing by 2. So I also need to make sure I'm dividing this side by 2. I'm going to go ahead and do my scratch work over here. I see I'm not going to get a whole number answer. In 6th grade, we are not going to deal with remainders anymore. You should have learned this yesterday. You can always add a decimal. Sorry, not yesterday. You should have learned this last year. You can always add a decimal and a 0 after any number. So now I have 10 divided by 2, and that's going to go 5 times. Your decimal comes straight up. So what I get is that 62.5. Read books would be equivalent to 100 total books, and therefore my percent is 62.5. Now I said I wasn't going to do this as a fraction, but I've changed my mind and I am also going to do this using fractions. So I set up my fraction. I'm looking for a fractional equivalent of 5 to 8. That's something to 100. I need to figure out what I need to multiply my 8 by to get to 100. To do that, I'm going to use my inverse operation. If I need to know what I'm multiplying 8 by to get to 100, I'm going to do 100 divided by 8. And the multiple is 12.5. So I would also need to multiply my 5 by 12.5 to get to that answer. And again, of course, I get 62.5. My equivalent ratio of 5 to 8 is 62.5 to 100. And therefore, the answer here is 62.5% of our books are read. All right. Now, if you wanted to, you could also get this into decimal format. 62.5 100ths is the same thing as 0.625. You're going to look for your hundredth place in your decimal. So I could say that what I'm going to do is 62.5 divided by 100. But I don't really need to do that. I just need to get my 62.5 to my hundredth place. Now really that just means that you're moving your decimal place 2 places to the left because you're getting that into the hundredth place. So 62.5 as a decimal is, 62.5% as a decimal is 0.625. Now I'm also going to do my other fraction. My other percent was 70%, which we know was 70 100ths. And then again, I just need to get that 70 into the hundredths place. So that's 0.7070 100ths. Okay, I want you to complete the Google form. And if you have any questions, bring them to class tomorrow. We will be working on these types of problems tomorrow in class as well.